Amali's breath caught in her throat the moment she saw it, her own childhood photo lying inside the billionaire's open safe. The dim golden light of Baruti's study flickered across the worn edges of the picture, making it feel almost alive, almost watching her. Her hands trembled violently. She had only opened the drawer to dust it, nothing more. But the safe door had been left slightly ajar, as if inviting her or warning her. Why would a man like Baruti, the cold, untouchable billionaire who barely spoke to his staff, keep a secret photo of a poor maid he barely knew? Her heart pounded like thunder in her ribs. A chill crawled down her spine. This wasn't admiration. This wasn't coincidence. This was something deeper, darker, and far more personal than she was ready to face. Before she could step back, she heard footsteps, slow, heavy, approaching the door. And then his voice, low, steady, and terrifyingly calm. "Amale, what did you just see?" Before we continue, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? If you enjoy gripping African folktale dramas like this, feel free to subscribe so you won't miss the next twists ahead. Amale couldn't breathe. The air in the study felt heavy, thick, almost suffocating as Baruti's footsteps grew closer. She stepped back instinctively, her fingers still trembling from the shock of what she had seen. The safe, her photo, her childhood face staring back at her from a place she had no business being. Her pulse hammered in her ears as Baruti entered the room, his tall figure casting a long, intimidating silhouette against the polished floor. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Baruti's eyes shifted from her face to the open safe, and then back to her again. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between concern and a quiet resignation, as if he had been expecting this moment for far too long. When he finally broke the silence, his voice was calm, almost too calm. "Amale," he said, "you shouldn't be here." She swallowed hard. I'm sorry, sir. I was just cleaning. The safe, it was open. I didn't touch anything, I swear." But the lie caught in her throat the moment it left her mouth. They both knew the truth. Her gaze lingered too long on the photo. Her body language betrayed her. And Baruti? He was a man who noticed everything. He stepped forward slowly, cautiously, as if approaching a frightened animal. "Tell me what you saw." Amale shook her head. Nothing important. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll go." She tried to move past him, but Baruti lifted a hand, not blocking her, not grabbing her, but just stopping her. His hand hung in the air, gentle yet firm. "Amale," he said again, and this time the weight in his voice made her freeze. "Please, look at me." She didn't want to. Every instinct in her screamed to run, to flee the mansion altogether, to never step foot in this place again. But something in his tone, soft, strange, almost grieving, pulled her eyes toward him. When she met his gaze, she felt a jolt of confusion. Baruti didn't look angry. He looked haunted. "Amale," he whispered, "there are things you don't know, things you deserve to know, but not like this." The room felt colder suddenly. The golden lamps didn't seem so warm anymore. Amale took another step back. "Please don't fire me," she said, her voice thin and shaking. "I need this job." "My brother, I'm not firing you." Baruti's response was immediate, almost too quick. "I'd never do that." Something about the certainty in his voice unsettled her more. "Why?" she asked before she could stop herself. "Why would you keep a picture of me? Why would someone like you, someone with everything, have something like that in your safe? What does any of this have to do with me?" Baruti closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, they held a kind of sorrow she couldn't understand. "It's complicated," he said quietly, "but I promise, Amale, I am not your enemy." The words should have soothed her. They didn't. If anything, they scared her more. The unresolved tension weighed heavily between them, thick and suffocating. Amale clenched her fists at her sides, trying to stop her hands from shaking. She didn't trust her voice enough to speak again. Baruti took a slow breath, as if preparing himself for something painful. "You remind me of someone," he said, "someone who meant a great deal to me." She blinked. "My mother." Baruti stiffened, not noticeably, but just enough for Amale to catch it. The reaction was small, but unmistakable. It felt like a knife twisting in her chest. "You knew her." Her voice cracked. Baruti looked away, jaw tightening. "Amale, there are truths that could hurt you, and I never wanted you to find out this way, not through a mistake, not through curiosity. But I did." Amale burst out. "I saw the picture. My picture. Why do you have it? Tell me." Her voice echoed sharply in the study. For the first time, Baruti looked genuinely shaken. "I can't," he said. "Not yet." Amale stepped back as if slapped. It was the worst answer he could have given. Not yet. What did that even mean? What kind of secret demanded timing? What kind of truth required permission? Her heart pounded furiously. Then I want to leave, she whispered. I can't work here. Not if you won't tell me what's going on. Not if you're keeping things from me. Baruti's face creased with pain. Amale, please, no. She backed away toward the door. I don't feel safe here. That hit him. She saw the way his shoulders tensed, the way his expression twisted with something like guilt. His voice dropped to a near whisper. I would never harm you. Maybe you wouldn't, she said. But secrets harm people too. She fled the room before he could answer. Her breath came in quick, uneven gasps as she hurried through the hallway. The grandeur of the mansion, polished floors, high ceilings, imported chandeliers, felt like a cage closing around her. She grabbed her bag from the servants' quarters. The other maids looked at her in confusion, but no one dared speak. Baruti was known for being private, distant, unpredictable, and Amala herself moved like a woman escaping a fire. By the time she reached the gate, her eyes were stinging. She didn't dare look back. Outside, the evening wind rushed against her face, cooling her flushed cheeks. The gravel path leading away from the mansion felt both freeing and terrifying. She wrapped her arms around herself and kept walking. She didn't know where she was going. Home, maybe, somewhere far from the mansion, far from Baruti, far from the secrets that had wrapped themselves around her life like vines. Her mind raced. Why her photo? Why her childhood? Why did Baruti react like that when she mentioned her mother? Questions twisted through her like thorns. She wiped her eyes roughly. When she finally reached the small, crumbling house she shared with her younger brother, the lights were already on. From inside, she heard Lebo's laughter, light, warm, innocent. A sound that always wrapped around her heart like a protective hand. She stepped inside. Lebo, just 15, but already fragile from illness, looked up from the wooden table where he was drawing. His face lit up instantly. You're back early, Amale. Tried to smile, but it felt weak. Yeah, I just needed to come home. He frowned. You look upset. Did someone at the mansion treat you badly again? Amale hesitated. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. She didn't even understand it herself. No, she said softly. Nothing like that. He watched her closely. His eyes were too perceptive for his age. Amala, did something happen? She sat beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I think she whispered, I found something I was never meant to see. She didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the safe. The photo, Baruti's face, his voice, the way he said not yet. By dawn, she knew one thing for certain, the truth wasn't going to leave her alone, and she needed answers. The next morning arrived with a strange, heavy stillness. Amala had barely slept, her mind refusing to quiet, replaying last night over and over, each memory sharper than the last. She stood at the small basin in their one-room home, splashing cold water on her face, hoping it would wash away the confusion clinging to her like a second skin. But nothing eased the weight on her chest. Behind her, Lebo stirred beneath the thin blanket he used as a cover. His breathing was shallow, a reminder of the illness slowly tightening around him like an invisible rope. Amale's heart squeezed painfully as she watched him struggle to sit up. Morning, Lebo murmured, rubbing his eyes. Morning, she replied softly, helping him straighten. How are you feeling? He shrugged, then grimaced slightly. A little tired. He always said that, even when he could barely walk. Even when he coughed so long he couldn't breathe. Amale forced a smile. I'll make something for you to eat, she said, though they both knew she barely had enough for a meager breakfast. But before she could turn toward the small pot in the corner, Lebo spoke again. Are you going back? The question froze her mid-step. Back where? To the mansion, he said. Your job. You didn't quit, did you? We can't afford that. Amale felt the air collapse around her. She couldn't tell him the truth, not about the safe, not about the photo, not about the unanswered questions clawing at her gut. She couldn't burden him with the fear she felt. So she chose the simplest lie. I just needed one night to rest, she said. I'll think about what to do today. Lebo looked at her longer than she expected, his gaze heavy with silent worry. But he didn't ask again. After a few moments, he lay back down, and Amale turned to the pot with trembling hands. The day passed slowly, too slowly. Amala helped her neighbor carry water, clean the room, tried to distract herself by cooking simple porridge. But every task felt distant, like she was performing someone else's chores. Her mind kept circling the same questions. Why did Baruti know so much about her past? How did he have a photo from when she was a child? What did her mother have to do with any of this? What truth was he so afraid to reveal? By the time the sun began to sink behind the hills, casting long amber streaks across the dirt road, Amali felt like she was going to unravel. She needed answers. She couldn't live another night drowning in fear and speculation. Before her courage had the chance to fade, she changed into her work clothes, clean, modest, slightly faded, and kissed Lebo's forehead. "I'll be back in a few hours," she whispered. His tired eyes followed her as she stepped out. The road back to the mansion felt longer than usual. Every step was weighted with tension. The closer she got, the louder her heartbeat grew. When the grand iron gates finally came into view, she hesitated. What if he was angry? What if he fired her? What if he refused to explain anything? She almost turned back. Almost. But some force she couldn't name pushed her forward. She approached the gatehouse where Joseph, the older guard, sat sipping tea. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "Amali, I didn't expect you today. I need to speak to Sir Baruti," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Joseph studied her carefully, then nodded. "He's home." "But he isn't himself today." Amali frowned. "What do you mean?" Joseph lowered his voice. "He didn't leave his study all day, didn't eat, didn't speak to anyone, just locked himself in there. Locked himself in the same place where she had found the photo." A tight knot formed in her stomach. "Can I go in?" she asked quietly. Joseph opened the gate. "You go ahead. Just be careful." The mansion felt different, colder, quieter. Even the marble floors seemed to echo more loudly beneath her feet. Amale walked slowly down the corridor, her palms sweating. When she reached Baruti's study, she stood outside the door for a long time trying to gather her courage. Finally, she knocked. Silence. She tried again. Still nothing. Her hand hovered uncertainly over the knob. She shouldn't enter. It wasn't her place, not after everything that happened. But the quiet behind the door felt wrong. She turned the handle. The room was dim-lit only by the weak glow of a single lamp. Papers were scattered across the desk. The safe was closed, now locked tight, as if nothing had happened. And Baruti was sitting on the floor near the window, his back against the wall, his head bowed into his hands. He didn't look like a billionaire. He didn't look powerful or untouchable. He looked broken. Amale stepped in quietly. "Sir Baruti." His head snapped up. For a moment there was pure vulnerability in his eyes, almost a plea, almost a confession waiting to spill out. But it disappeared just as quickly, replaced by a guarded expression. "Amale," he said softly. "You came back." She swallowed. "I need answers." He closed his eyes for a moment, as though bracing himself. "I know." She approached him slowly. "You told me there were things I didn't know. Things about my life, about my mother, about that picture. I need you to tell me what's going on." Baruti exhaled shakily. "I've wanted to tell you for a long time, but every time I tried, I couldn't." "Why?" "Because the truth hurts," he whispered. "And I didn't want to cause you more pain than you've already lived through." The words hit her with a force she didn't expect. "What truth?" She pressed, her voice cracking. "Please, tell me." Baruti's eyes glistened with something she had never seen in him before. Raw, unfiltered emotion. "There was a woman," he began quietly. "A woman I loved more than anything. Her name was Lorado." Amala's breath stopped. "My mother's name," she whispered. Baruti nodded slowly. "Yes, Lorado." The room went silent. Amala felt the world tilt under her feet. A cold shiver crawled over her skin. "You knew my mother," she said. Not a question, an accusation. "Yes," Baruti said, his voice trembling. "I knew her. I loved her. And I lost her." Amala took several steps back, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "No," she said. "No, this can't." Baruti stood, moving toward her slowly, cautiously. "Amali, please." She cut him off with a shaking voice. "What are you trying to tell me, that you're my—" "No," Baruti said quickly, pain flashing across his face. "I'm not your father." Amali froze. "But your mother, she was taken from me," he continued softly. "Taken by people who didn't want us together. People who forced her to disappear." His hands shook as he spoke. "And the photo," she whispered. Tears gathered in his eyes. "It was the only thing of her I had left until the day I saw you." Amala's knees felt weak. Her breath shook. Every part of her wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. But before she could speak, Baruti said the words that shattered her completely. "You look exactly like her, Amale. You are the image of the only woman I ever loved." The room spun. Amale stumbled back. Her heart cracked open like glass. Her voice broke into a whisper. So that's why you kept my picture. Because I'm nothing but a shadow of someone you lost. Baruti's face crumpled. Amale, no. It's not. But she didn't hear the rest. She turned and ran. Out of the room. Out of the mansion. Out of the world where secrets twisted into daggers aimed at her chest. Her heart didn't just break. It shattered. Amale didn't remember how she made it back home. Her legs carried her on instinct, fueled by shock, humiliation, and a heartbreak so sharp it felt like her chest was being carved open with every breath. By the time she reached the small wooden door of her house, her tears had dried into thin salt lines on her cheeks. Her throat burned from holding back sobs she didn't want anyone to hear. Inside, Lebo sat up immediately when he heard her enter. Amala, his voice was thin, brittle with concern. Why are you back so soon? Are you okay? She shook her head and forced a smile that crumpled almost immediately. I'm fine, she whispered. But she wasn't. She couldn't even pretend. Lebo watched her for several seconds, too perceptive, too knowing. Did someone hurt you? Amale blinked quickly, trying to steady her breathing. No, she said. No one hurt me, but someone had hurt her, not physically, but in a way far deeper, in a way that rewrote her entire past. She walked to the corner of the room and sank onto the worn mat, hugging her knees tightly. The shadows of the evening stretched across the floor, long and thin, like dark fingers reaching for her. Lebo shifted to sit near her. Do you want to talk about it? He asked gently. Amale stared at the dirt floor. Talking about it felt impossible. The words themselves were too heavy, the truth too unbelievable. My mother, she whispered. Lebo went still. What about her? Amale's voice cracked. Baruti knew her. Lebo's eyes widened slowly. What? She nodded, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. He knew Mama. He loved her. The words tasted wrong in her mouth, too intimate, too fragile to speak aloud. She felt her hands begin to tremble. He kept a picture of me because... She swallowed hard. Because I look like her. Like the woman he lost. That's all I am to him. Lebo's brows knitted together. Amala, that can't be the whole story. But it is, she said, her voice rising. Why else would he hide my photo? Why else would he look at me like that? I'm a replacement. A ghost of a woman he couldn't have. That's why he hired me. That's why he kept me there. Her voice broke. Tears spilled despite her trying to hold them in. She covered her mouth as sobs shook her small frame. Lebo gently put a hand on her back. Everything she had believed about her life, her job, her place in the mansion, even Baruti's strange protectiveness felt corrupted, twisted into something ugly and painful. She wished she could rip the memory of that room, that photo, that confession, right out of her mind. She didn't know how long she cried. Minutes, hours, the room faded in and out of focus until exhaustion swallowed her, and she curled into herself until sleep finally dragged her under. She woke up to the sound of coughing, deep, harsh, tearing coughs. Lebo, she croaked, pushing herself upright. He was sitting up, hand pressed to his chest, coughing violently. Amala rushed to him immediately. Hey, breathe, she whispered, supporting him. It's okay. I'm here. But it wasn't okay. His coughing fit grew worse. His face turned a shade too pale. When the coughs finally subsided, he gasped for air like someone who had nearly drowned. Amale's heart thudded painfully in her chest. We're going to the clinic, she said, voice trembling. No, Lebo whispered. We don't have money for another visit. The doctor said, I don't care what the doctor said, Amale snapped, panic tightening her chest. You can't breathe, Lebo. I won't let you die because we're too poor for medicine, her voice cracked at the end. The fear in her eyes made Lebo fall silent. After a long moment, he nodded weakly. Amale grabbed her faded shawl, wrapped it around him, and helped him outside. The walk to the clinic was long, and Lebo's steps were unsteady. Twice he stumbled. Twice she almost lost her balance holding him up. By the time they arrived, he was shaking. The nurse recognized them immediately. Back again, Emily nodded desperately. Please, he's worse. Please help. The nurse glanced at Lebo, concern softening her face. Sit him down. I'll see what I can do. They waited. Minutes blurred into hours. Amala held Lebo's hand and whispered prayers between tears. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression was grave. He needs treatment, he said quietly. Proper treatment. Not temporary medicine anymore. His lungs are weakening. If this continues, he won't last long. Amale felt her knees weaken. How much? The doctor hesitated. Treatment will cost more than you can afford, I'm afraid. Her stomach twisted. Please, she whispered. He's all I have. The doctor sighed. I'll give you a small supply of medication for now. But it's not a cure. He needs real treatment soon. Amale nodded numbly. Numbness was the only way her body could protect itself from collapsing completely. She took Lebo home, helped him lie down, fed him the medicine. But all the while, one thought chased her relentlessly. Baruti can help. He had the money, the resources, the power. And despite all the confusion, all the pain, there was one thing she knew. He cared, maybe too much, maybe in the wrong way. But he cared. The thought made her nauseous. She didn't want to see him again. She didn't want to face him. But she wanted her brother to live more than she wanted anything else in the world. That night she lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, her mind torn between fear and desperation. When dawn finally crept into the room, she made her choice. She walked back to the mansion. Her hands trembled the entire way. She didn't know what she would say. She didn't know if she'd beg or demand or scream. She just knew she needed help. The gate was closed, but Joseph saw her and opened it without a word. His expression was gentle. "He hasn't slept," he said quietly. "Not since you left." Amala's heart flinched painfully, but she said nothing. She made her way to the study again. Her footsteps echoed on the marble like distant thunder. Her breath came out unevenly as she reached the door. She knocked once. Silence. She knocked again. Still nothing. She reached for the doorknob, and it turned easily. Baruti was inside, not sitting, not standing, but kneeling on the floor beside the safe, head bowed, as though weighed down by something crushing. He looked up slowly as she entered. The moment their eyes met, something inside her cracked open. His voice broke first. "Amale, please don't go, not again." She swallowed hard. "I didn't come for answers this time." He stood slowly, uncertainty tightening his features. Then, "Why did you come?" Her voice trembled. "My brother is dying." The words hit the air like shattered glass. Baruti's breath caught his face, twisting with shock and immediate concern. "Amale," he whispered, "tell me what you need." Her eyes filled with tears. "I need your help." Baruti didn't hesitate. "Not even for a heartbeat. You'll have it," he vowed. "Whatever it takes, whatever he needs, I'll help." Amale's knees nearly buckled with relief. She covered her mouth to stifle a sob, but she didn't expect what happened next. Baruti stepped forward, voice shaking with something deeper than guilt. "Amale, there's something else you must know." Her heart froze. "I wasn't just keeping your picture because you reminded me of your mother." Her breath caught painfully. "There's more," he whispered. "Much more." She stared at him, trembling. "What else?" she asked. Baruti swallowed hard. "The truth? You were not supposed to ever hear, but now you must." His next words would change everything. Again. For a moment, time hung suspended between them, fragile, trembling, ready to shatter. Amale felt her heartbeat in her throat, loud and suffocating. She didn't want more secrets. She didn't want more pain. But the look in Baruti's eyes told her the truth was already unraveling, whether she was ready or not. She steadied herself, fingers curling into her palms. "What more is there?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Baruti took a slow breath, as though dragging air into lungs that didn't want to move. "Sit with me," he said softly. Amale hesitated. Part of her wanted to run again, but she needed answers not for him but for herself. So she nodded stiffly and sat on the edge of the leather chair across from him. Baruti knelt on the floor instead of taking a seat, as if confessing something sacred or shameful. "I kept your picture," he began, "not only because you look like your mother, but because your mother asked me to." Amale's breath faltered. What? Baruti's gaze flickered with torment. "Years ago, long before you were born, your mother and I tried to build a life together. We planned to run away to escape everything keeping us apart. My family, they didn't approve. They wanted me to marry within the elite, someone with status, someone who would protect the family's wealth." He swallowed hard. "But I didn't care. I loved Lorato more than anything. I would have given up everything to be with her." Amalo dug her nails into her palms to keep her emotions steady. Hearing her mother's name spoken with such reverence twisted something deep in her chest. "Then why did she leave you?" she asked, fighting the tremor in her voice. Pain crossed Baruti's face like a shadow. "She didn't want to leave. She was forced to." Amale blinked rapidly. "By who, my father?" he whispered, "and others who wanted to protect our reputation." Amale stared at him, numb. She had imagined her mother running away, abandoning Baruti, and perhaps abandoning her. But this was something else, something darker. "He threatened her," Baruti continued. "They told her if she didn't disappear, they would hurt her, and her future children. A cold shiver gripped Amala's spine. Future children, meaning me. Baruti nodded. Yes. Amali's throat tightened as though someone had wrapped a fist around it. So she left you to protect me. Yes, he whispered. She loved you even before you existed, and she loved me. That's why she came to me one last time before she vanished. His eyes softened with aching tenderness. She was already pregnant with you. The words crushed the breath from Amala's lungs. Pregnant, with her, before she disappeared. Amalie felt tears burn behind her eyes. Did she tell you? Baruti nodded. She told me, and she begged me to let her go. She didn't want you raised in fear. She wanted you safe, even if it meant losing both of us. Her chest felt as though it was splitting open. She pressed her hands against her mouth to stop a sob from escaping. Why didn't you find us? She whispered through shaking breaths. Baruti's voice broke. I tried. For years I searched. I checked every hospital, every village, every registry. But your mother, she hid well. Too well. There was silence. Thick, crushing. Amalie closed her eyes tightly, tears streaming. For the first time, she understood something she never knew she had been longing for. Her mother hadn't abandoned her. She had protected her. And Baruti, he had been searching. It should have softened her heart. But then another thought struck her sharp, cold, painful. So when you saw me, she said slowly, when you hired me to work for you, you already suspected who I was. Baruti nodded. Amala's stomach twisted violently. Then why didn't you tell me from the beginning? His face crumpled with guilt. Because I wasn't sure. Because I didn't want to hurt you if I was wrong. And because when I saw you so much like her, I lost myself. I didn't know how to face the truth. Amalie's voice wavered with anger and heartbreak. You let me believe you were obsessed with me. You let me think you kept my photo out of some twisted desire. I know, he whispered. And I'm sorry. I should have told you, but I didn't know how. His voice cracked with remorse. I wasn't using you, Amalie. I was protecting what was left of her, until I understood who you really were. Amalie drew in a sharp breath. Who I really am. Baruti reached into the safe and pulled out a thin envelope, sealed and worn with age. This, he said, is a letter your mother wrote. For you. Amala's vision blurred. Her trembling hands refused to take it. My mother wrote to me. Yes, Baruti whispered. She left it with me the night she disappeared. She said you would come someday, and when you did, I should give it to you. Tears rolled down Amala's cheeks silently. Her fingers hovered hesitantly before finally gripping the envelope. Her name was written across the front, in elegant, familiar strokes. Like the ones she remembered from the notes her mother used to leave with the village tailor. Her knees buckled. She knew I would find you, Amalie whispered. She believed it, Baruti said. She believed destiny would bring you here. Amalie clutched the letter to her chest, sobbing softly. The weight of years, pain, abandonment, confusion crashed through her like a tidal wave. Baruti knelt beside her, careful not to touch her unless she allowed it. There's more, he said quietly. Your mother isn't dead, Amalie. Amalie's head snapped up. What? She's alive, Baruti said gently. I found out recently she's been hiding for years, but I finally discovered where she is. Amalie stared at him, her entire world narrowing to a single point. Alive. Her mother was alive, where she whispered, breath trembling. I'll take you to her, he said. But only if you're ready. Amalie wiped her tears with trembling fingers. She looked at the letter in her hands, the last message her mother wrote before disappearing. How can I be ready for something like this, she whispered. Baruti nodded slowly. You're right. No one ever truly is. Silence stretched between them, thick, but no longer poisonous. Then Amalie took a deep breath, fragile but determined. I want to see her, she said, no matter what it takes. Baruti nodded once firmly with quiet resolve. Then I'll help you. I swear it. Amalie clutched the letter against her heart, feeling its weight, its promise, its pain. But the moment was interrupted by something that cut through the air like a knife. A loud, desperate knock at the study door. Joseph burst in breathless. Sir Baruti, Amalie, come quickly. They both stood at once. What happened? Baruti demanded. Joseph's face twisted with urgency. It's your brother, he said, turning to Amalie. Lebo collapsed. The neighbors brought him to the gate. He's barely breathing. Amalie felt the world tilt beneath her feet. No, not now. She dropped the letter. She ran. The world around Amalie dissolved into a blur of motion and panic. She didn't feel her feet hit the marble floor as she sprinted down the hallway. She didn't feel the cold wind slicing against her skin When she burst through the mansion doors, she didn't even hear Baruti shouting her name behind her. All she could hear was a single, terrifying thought beating against her skull. Libo can't die. Not now. Not when she finally has hope. Outside the gate, a small crowd had formed. Two neighbors, Mr. Duma and his wife, were crouched beside Libo's limp body. His face was pale, lips tinged with blue, his chest rising in frighteningly shallow breaths. Libo, Amali cried, falling to her knees beside him. His eyes fluttered weakly. "Hey, Amala." His voice was a rasp of air, barely a sound at all. Her heart tore in two. "I'm here," she whispered urgently, grabbing his cold hand. "I'm right here, Libo. Stay with me." His eyelids twitched as if he was fighting to stay conscious. Mrs. Duma placed a hand on Amala's back. "We found him collapsed outside your home. He tried to walk alone. Poor boy nearly didn't make it." Amala's vision blurred with tears. "Why would you leave the house?" "Why, Libo?" His voice was barely a whisper. I wanted to bring you water. You forgot to refill the bucket yesterday. I thought you would be tired." Amala's chest constricted painfully. Of all moments of all times, her sweet, selfless brother had pushed his frail body just to help her. She held his hand as though it were slipping away. "Why would you risk yourself like that? Don't you know I need you? I can't lose you, Libo." "I can't." His lips parted as if he wanted to answer, but his eyes rolled back. "Amma," his hand went limp in hers. "No," she screamed, shaking him. "Libo, Libo, wake up! Please wake up!" Strong arms wrapped around her, suddenly pulling her back. Baruti. His grip was firm but gentle, preventing her from shaking her brother. "He's unconscious," Baruti said urgently. "We have to move. Now." "Joseph, bring the car around." Joseph ran immediately. Amali sobbed uncontrollably as Baruti lifted Libo into his arms. For a moment she saw something she had never seen before. True fear in Baruti's eyes. Fear of losing someone innocent. Fear of failing again. He carried Libo to the black SUV with precision and urgency, every movement fueled by determination rather than panic. "Amala," he said, turning to her, as he placed Libo carefully across the back seat, "Get in. We're going straight to the best private hospital. He's going to make it." She climbed into the car, tears falling nonstop, hands trembling violently. Baruti slammed the door shut, ran around the vehicle, and jumped into the driver's seat. The car roared to life. The tires screeched as Baruti sped down the hill, gravel scattering behind them. Amala held her brother's hand, tightly checking his breathing every few seconds. Each shallow rise of his chest felt like a fragile promise. "Stay with me," she whispered fiercely. "Stay with me, Libo. You can't leave me. Please don't leave me." Her voice cracked into sobs. Baruti glanced at them in the rearview mirror. "He'll be okay," he said quietly, his tone firm like a vow. "I won't let anything happen to him, Amali. Not again." She swallowed hard. "Not again. What do you mean?" But Baruti didn't answer. His jaw clenched as he pressed the accelerator harder. They arrived at the private hospital within 15 minutes, a drive that normally took 30. Nurses ran to the car as soon as they saw the unconscious boy. "Critical condition," Baruti said sharply. "Get him to emergency treatment. Now." His commanding voice made the staff move faster than usual. Within seconds, they had Libo on a stretcher and rushed him inside. Amali tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her gently. "You can't go into the operating room," she said. "Please wait outside." "No," Amala cried, reaching for her brother. "I need to be with him." Baruti stepped in, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "They'll take better care of him inside. Let them work." Amala collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. She shook violently. "What if he dies? What if I'm too late? I should have taken him earlier. I should have." "It's not your fault," Baruti murmured, kneeling beside her. "You've cared for him alone for years. You've done more than most people ever could." His voice softened. "Let me help now." Amali wanted to push him away, wanted to scream at him for the truths he had kept from her, for the pain he caused, for confusing her with memories of her mother. But right now, none of that mattered. Only Libo mattered. She looked at Baruti through tear-filled eyes. "I can't lose him. He's all I have left." Baruti hesitated, then spoke softly, almost too softly. "Not for much longer." Amali froze. What Baruti looked away, gathering his thoughts. "When this is over, when Libo is stable, I'll take you to your mother." The words pierced through her panic and landed like a shockwave. "You said she's alive," Amali whispered. "But you never told me where." "I will," he said. "I promise." "But why wait?" she asked, confusion and desperation mixing in her tone. His eyes darkened with something heavy. Because your mother is hiding from someone dangerous. Someone who hasn't stopped looking for her. Fear prickled across Amali's skin. Dangerous? Baruti nodded slowly. The same people who forced her to disappear years ago. Amali's stomach twisted sharply. They're still looking for her, and now for you, Baruti said. The world tilted beneath her. For me, she whispered. Yes, he said quietly. You are the last piece they never found. Terror crawled up Amali's spine like ice. Why would they look for me? Because Baruti answered, voice tightening, if they find you, they find her. Silence pressed between them like a thick, suffocating blanket. Amali gripped the chair to keep herself steady. So you kept my photo to find my mother. Yes, he admitted, but also because I cared. I cared more than I should, and I wanted to protect you both. Amali felt torn in two. Part of her wanted to hate him. Part of her wanted to believe him. Part of her wanted to collapse in his arms and scream. But before she could respond, the doctor stepped out of the emergency room, his expression unreadable. Amali shot to her feet. Dr. Lebo, how is he? Is he alive? The doctor paused, removing his gloves. He's stable, he said. Amali fell forward, catching herself on the wall as her knees buckled in relief. But the doctor continued, he needs intensive treatment, weeks of it. His lungs are failing. Without a long-term medical plan, he won't survive. Amalo's breath shattered. How much? The doctor sighed. More than most families can afford. Her world darkened. But then Baruti spoke. I'll cover everything, he said, his tone fierce, unyielding. Every bill, every treatment, whatever it takes. The doctor blinked. Sir, the cost is, I said, whatever it takes. Amali stared at Baruti, stunned. He turned to her gently. Your brother will live, Amala. I swear it. Her eyes filled again, but with something different this time. A bruised, fragile hope. She whispered, thank you. But as she leaned against the wall, overwhelmed, she didn't see the flicker of fear across Baruti's face. He knew something Amali didn't. Saving Lebo would be the easy part. Keeping Amali safe from the shadows of her past, that would be the real battle. One he wasn't sure he could win. For the next several hours, Amala remained in the stark white waiting room, her fingers twisting together anxiously as nurses hurried past with clipped voices and quick strides. Machines beeped behind closed doors. The scent of antiseptics stung her nose. Everything around her felt distant, muted by the pounding of her heart. But she refused to leave. Not until she saw Lebo with her own eyes. Baruti stayed too. He didn't sit. He didn't relax. He stood near the window, hands clasped behind his back, shoulders tight, like a man prepared to fight a storm with nothing but his bare fists. Amali stole glances at him, small, cautious, hesitant. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days, as if the weight of the world balanced on his spine. Each time he noticed her looking, his eyes softened, but he didn't speak. It was safer that way. The silence between them was thick, filled with broken truths, unspoken fear, and something deeper neither of them knew how to name. Finally, near sunrise, a nurse stepped into the waiting room. You can see him now, she said gently. Amali shot up instantly. Baruti followed quietly behind her, but kept a respectful distance as she entered Lebo's room. Lebo lay on the small hospital bed connected to a nasal oxygen tube. His breaths were still shallow but steadier now. The harsh blue tint had faded from his lips. His skin looked less gray, more alive. Tears blurred Amala's vision. She rushed to his side and cupped his cheek gently. Lebo, I'm here. I'm here, little brother. His eyelids fluttered open, weakly, but they opened. Sis. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried more life than before. A shaky smile trembled on Amali's lips. You scared me. You scared me so much, Lebo swallowed weakly. I didn't want you to worry. Amali let out a small, breathless laugh that broke into a sob. I always worry. Always. You're all I have. His hand trembled as he tried to squeeze hers. Baruti lingered by the doorway silently. Lebo's gaze drifted toward him. That's him, Lebo breathed softly. Amali glanced over her shoulder. Yes. He helped bring you here. He paid for everything. Lebo nodded faintly. Thank you, sir. Baruti stepped closer, careful not to frighten the boy. You're welcome, Lebo. You're strong. You just need time to heal. Lebo closed his eyes again, not from weakness, but from relief. For the first time since arriving at the hospital, Amali felt she could breathe. After some time, when Lebo drifted back to sleep, Amali slipped out of the room. She expected Baruti to leave her alone, but he followed quietly, stopping when they reached the corridor. Amale, he began softly. I want you to rest too. You look exhausted. She shook her head. I can't rest. You must, he insisted. You're no good to him if you collapse. She turned to him, eyes red but steady. Everything is falling apart. My past, my brother's health, my entire identity. I can't rest. Baruti's expression tightened. He wanted to argue, but he didn't. Instead, after a long pause, he offered something unexpected. Let me stay with him for a while. You can use the spare room upstairs. Sleep for an hour, just one. Amale opened her mouth to refuse, then closed it. Because the truth was, she was terrified of falling asleep in the chair beside Lebo and waking to hear he hadn't made it through the night. Just 1 hour, she whispered. Yes, Baruti said gently. I'll wake you if anything changes. Amale nodded reluctantly. With trembling legs, she followed a nurse to an empty restroom upstairs. The bed was small but clean. The dim light was soft on her eyes. The moment she lay down, her body sank into the thin mattress, and she broke. Tears streamed silently across her temples. Everything she had been holding in poured out in the stillness: fear, heartbreak, confusion, betrayal, hope. She hugged her knees and whispered into the darkness, Mother, where are you? Sleep finally claimed her, heavy and merciful. Amala awoke abruptly to the sound of voices downstairs. Raised voices, urgent voices. Her heart jolted violently. She pushed herself off the bed and rushed down the stairs without bothering to fix her hair or wipe her face. At the bottom, she saw Baruti arguing with a man in a dark gray suit. A stranger. A cold-looking stranger. The man was tall with sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes that flickered like a predator sizing up prey. Amale froze when his gaze locked on her. Amale Dlamini, he said smoothly as though reciting a name he had been hunting for. Her stomach dropped. Baruti stepped in front of her, instantly shielding her with his body. You have no right to be here, Baruti said, his voice low and dangerous. Leave. The stranger smirked. You think you can hide her? Amala felt Baruti tense. I said leave, Baruti repeated, his jaw clenched. The man's lips curled into a sinister smile. Your father still remembers the debt her mother owes. Amala went cold. Her mother, the danger, the secret. It all collided in her mind like lightning. What debt? She whispered. The man tilted his head, mocking. You're old enough to know. Your mother ran. She hid. But debts do not disappear simply because someone vanishes. Stop talking to her, Baruti snapped, stepping even closer to block the man's view. The stranger's eyes narrowed. The girl belongs to us. Belongs. The word pierced Amali like a blade. No, Baruti growled. She belongs to no one. The man chuckled darkly. You think you can protect her like you protected her mother? He leaned in. How did that end, Baruti? She vanished, didn't she? And you did nothing. Baruti's fists clenched. His breathing turned sharp. Amali could feel the fury radiating off him, but beneath it she sensed something deeper. Guilt. Terrible, heavy guilt. They threatened her, Baruti said through gritted teeth. The same way you're threatening Amala now. The man shrugged. Then she knows the price. What price? Amali demanded, her voice trembling. Both men turned to her. The stranger grinned like a wolf. Your mother stole something from a powerful man, something she had no right to take, and she's been running ever since. Amali shook her head. That's impossible. My mother would never. She did. The man interrupted viciously. She stole a fortune, a document, a secret, something that could ruin the man who once owned your mother. Owned? Amali echoed, horrified. Baruti shot forward and grabbed the man's collar. Say that again and I will break you right here. Joseph appeared from the hallway, alarmed. Sir, please. Baruti didn't let go. The stranger's voice remained calm, almost amused. You can threaten me all you want, but she is your weakness, and we will come for her. Baruti shoved him backward. Get out. The man straightened his suit and gave Amali one last unsettling smile before walking out the door. See you soon, he said as he disappeared into the corridor. The room fell silent. Baruti stood, frozen chest rising and falling heavily. His fists were still shaking. Amali stared at him, her whole body cold. What is going on? She whispered. Tell me the truth. Tell me everything. No more secrets. Baruti closed his eyes tightly. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. Your mother didn't just leave to protect you, Amale. He turned, meeting her gaze with devastation. She left because they were hunting her, for stealing something that didn't belong to her. Amala's voice cracked. What did she steal? Baruti swallowed hard. A name, he said softly. A fortune, a legacy. Amali shook her head in confusion. I don't understand. Baruti stepped closer, pain twisting his features. Your mother stole the identity of a family heir. Amali's breath caught. And that heir, Baruti whispered, voice trembling, was you. The ground vanished beneath her feet, her vision blurred, and the world she knew already fragile shattered completely. Amali stared at Baruti as though he had spoken a language she had never heard before. The walls of the hospital corridor seemed to close in on her, each breath tightening until air barely reached her lungs. What? What do you mean? She whispered, clutching the edge of the wall to steady herself. How could I be an heir? I'm nobody. I grew up with nothing. My mother, she was just a village woman trying to survive. Baruti's expression softened, but the sorrow in his eyes deepened. Your mother wasn't who you think she was, Amala. And neither are you. Amala shook her head sharply, her pulse thundering as panic clawed at her. Stop! Stop talking like that! I don't understand any of this. You're confusing me. Just say it plainly. Baruti took a deep, painful breath, as though dredging up a truth he had tried to bury for far too long. You are the biological daughter of Kwadi Masego, he said quietly. Amale blinked stunned. Baruti stepped closer, his voice low and careful. Kwadi Masego, the rightful heir to one of the most powerful dynasties in the region. A dynasty your mother once worked for, until she discovered things she was never meant to know. Amala stared at him, her mind refusing to connect the pieces. Her throat tightened. That's impossible. My father died when I was a baby. My mother told me. Your mother lied, Baruti said softly but firmly. Not to hurt you, to protect you. Amali staggered back a step as his words sank deeper, slicing through the fragments of memories she had clung to her whole life. No, this couldn't be real. Her family was ordinary, poor, invisible. She shook her head again, more violently this time. No, my mother would never steal someone's identity. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't. Baruti agreed. She didn't steal for greed. She stole to save you. Amala's breath faltered. Baruti continued, his voice steady despite the tension around them. Years ago, the Masego family was involved in corruption, violence, and illegal holdings. Your father, Kwadi, was trying to expose them from inside. He gathered evidence, documents, recordings, everything he needed to bring justice. Amala's brow furrowed. But what does that have to do with me? Baruti's expression grew darker. Your father trusted Lorado, your mother. She was the only person he confided in. But before he could finish what he started, he was killed. Amali gasped softly. Killed, yes, Baruti said gravely. By the very people he was trying to expose. Her head spun. So your mother, he continued, took his evidence and ran. She knew the Masego family would come for her next. She also knew they would come for you, the true heir. Because if you lived, you would inherit everything your father intended to leave behind, including the truth. Amali clutched the front of her dress, feeling as though the ground beneath her had tilted sideways. So the man earlier, she whispered, the one in the suit. Yes, Baruti said. He works for the Masego family. They've been hunting Lorado for years, trying to retrieve the evidence she stole. His voice lowered. And now that they know you're alive, they'll hunt you too. Amala felt the blood drain from her face. A wave of nausea hit her, forcing her to grip the wall harder. I can't be what you're saying. I'm just a maid. I'm just a Malay. Baruti stepped closer, his voice warm but trembling. You are much more, whether you want it or not. No, she muttered, shaking her head wildly. No. She turned and walked away, needing distance, needing air, needing the world to stop spinning. But the truth followed. Amale, Baruti called gently, please. She spun around, anger and fear blazing through her. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She cried. Why did you let me live all these years thinking I was nobody? Why did my mother hide everything from me? Baruti looked stricken. Because the more you knew, the more danger you were in. Lorado believed ignorance would protect you. She thought if you lived like an ordinary girl, you would stay off their radar. Amala's hands trembled. But I'm not off their radar, she whispered. They found me. Baruti nodded grimly. Because of me. Amali stared at him. I hired you because I suspected, he admitted. I had information. Clues. I knew you looked like Lorado. I knew your age matched the timeline. I needed to be sure. Amali's eyes widened in pain. So I was a project to you. A puzzle. That's all. No, Baruti stepped forward, anguish etched deeply into every line of his face. You were never an object, never just a suspicion. I cared. I cared long before I understood why. Cared, she echoed bitterly. Or cared because I looked like the woman you lost, he flinched as though struck. Amala, I admit seeing you was like seeing a ghost. I was flooded with grief I had buried. But what I feel for you now has nothing to do with your mother. It's you. All of it is you. Amala stared at him, breathing hard. I don't know what to believe anymore, she whispered. Barudi's shoulders slumped. He looked broken. You don't have to believe me, he said quietly. But believe this, your mother entrusted me with your protection. And now that the Masego family knows who you are, I won't let them touch you. Amali's voice trembled. How far will they go? As far as they must, Barudi said. They're powerful, ruthless. They want to erase the evidence your mother stole and anyone connected to it. A cold wave washed over her. So what do I do? She whispered. His answer was immediate. You let me protect you. Amale shook her head, tears spilling again. I don't want to be hidden. I don't want to run my whole life. Barudi stepped closer, his eyes fierce with conviction. You won't run. You'll face the truth. With me. His voice lowered. We'll find your mother. We'll end this. Together. Amale looked at him, her chest aching with fear, grief, and something dangerously like hope. Why help me? She whispered. You already lost my mother. Why risk everything again? Barudi held her gaze unblinking. Because I couldn't save her, he whispered. But I can save you. Before Amala could respond, the hospital intercom crackled overhead. Emergency alert, family member of Lebo Dlamini, please report to the second floor. Immediate attention required. Amali's heart dropped into her stomach. She didn't wait. She didn't breathe. She ran. In the growing storm around her, the truth of her identity, the threat of the Masego family, the secrets of her mother, followed close behind, ready to break open at any moment. Amali sprinted up the stairwell 2 steps at a time. Her breath ragged her pulse, a wild drumbeat in her ears. Her vision blurred from fear, but her legs moved faster than she thought possible. She crashed through the double doors to the second floor, nearly colliding with a nurse rushing in the opposite direction. I'm his sister, Amali gasped. What happened, please? What happened to my brother? The nurse steadied her quickly. He's alive, but he's struggling to breathe again. His oxygen levels suddenly dropped. We need to stabilize him. A wave of cold terror swept through her body. Take me to him, she whispered. The nurse nodded and guided her toward a room where 2 additional nurses and a doctor were gathered around Lebo's bed, adjusting machines, increasing his oxygen flow, and checking his vitals. Lebo's chest rose unevenly under the blanket, each breath a painful heave. His eyes fluttered weakly, his face pale and damp with sweat. Lebo Amali called softly, stepping to his side. His gaze found her unfocused but present. Ama? Heli? He rasped. She took his trembling hand into hers, feeling its frightening coldness. I'm here, I'm right here, Lebo. I'm not going anywhere. The doctor glanced at her sympathetically. He's experiencing a respiratory crisis. But we caught it early. We're adjusting his treatment. He needs constant monitoring and long-term intervention. Amali swallowed hard. Will he make it? The doctor didn't answer immediately. We're doing everything we can. That wasn't the answer she needed. Her throat tightened painfully, but before panic could take over, she felt a warm, steadying presence behind her. Barudi, he stepped slowly to her side but didn't touch her. He was close enough for her to feel his strength, his certainty, like a wall she could lean on if she chose to. We'll get him through this, he said quietly. Amahle didn't couldn't respond. Every fear she had buried since childhood, losing people, being abandoned, watching loved ones fade, rose like ghosts around her. She pressed her forehead against Lebo's hand, letting silent tears soak his skin. Stay with me, she whispered. Stay with me, please. Minutes passed like hours. The medical team worked quickly, adjusting medications, changing oxygen masks, checking his lungs with a stethoscope. Finally, slowly, Lebo's breathing began to stabilize. His chest rose more evenly. His oxygen levels climbed, small but steady. The doctor exhaled in relief. He's responding, he murmured. Keep talking to him. It helps. Amali nodded, her voice shaking. Lebo, you're strong. So strong. I need you. Don't leave me, okay? Not now. Not ever. His fingers twitched faintly in her grip. Her heart swelled with fragile hope. Once the crisis calmed and the staff left, the room fell into a heavy quiet. Machines beeped softly, a rhythmic reminder of the battle Lebo was fighting with every breath. Amala stayed by his side, stroking his arm softly. Barudi pulled a chair closer but didn't sit. He remained standing near the window, watching them with an expression Amale couldn't decipher. Something between sorrow and fierce determination. She didn't look at him. Not yet. She wasn't ready. Her voice was barely audible when she finally spoke. Everything is falling apart. Baruti took a step closer. Not everything. She let out a trembling laugh, bitter, exhausted. My brother almost died twice. My mother is alive but hunted. I'm apparently the heir to a dynasty that wants me dead, and I don't even know who I am anymore. Silence thickened between them. Baruti lowered himself into the chair beside her. You're still Amale, he said softly. You're still the girl who fought her whole life to protect her brother, who never gave up despite everything stacked against her. That hasn't changed, she rubbed her eyes. You don't even know me. I do, he said quietly. More than you realize. Amale looked at him sharply. Why? Because you knew my mother. Because I look like her. Because you think I'm some kind of legacy. Baruti flinched. Amale, that's not. Then what is it? She demanded, her voice rising, despite her efforts to keep it calm. Why do you care? Why risk so much for me? Why are you even here? Baruti's eyes softened. Because I failed your mother, he whispered. Amale froze. Baruti looked toward the floor, shame etched into every line of his face. I was supposed to protect her. We were supposed to run together. I had everything planned. But I hesitated. I waited one night too long. My father's men came and she had to escape on her own. If I had acted sooner, maybe she wouldn't have lived in fear for so many years. Maybe she wouldn't have had to hide you. Amala felt the heat leave her body. And now she whispered. Baruti lifted his gaze, tormented but unwavering. Now I won't fail her again. Not with you. Amali's breath hitched. He leaned closer, voice trembling. You're not just a reminder of her. You're her daughter, her hope. Everything she sacrificed was for your future, and I'm trying to honor that. Amale blinked rapidly as tears filled her eyes again. I don't want to be hunted. I don't want to be an heir. I just want my brother alive. I want the life I had, hard as it was. Baruti nodded slowly. I understand, but you don't get to choose destiny. Your father didn't. Your mother didn't. Now it's your turn to face what's coming. Amala's hands shook. I'm scared. Baruti reached out, hesitant, careful, before laying his hand gently over hers. I fear for you, he admitted, but I will protect you, no matter what. Amale didn't move her hand away. For the first time since the truth unraveled, she didn't feel entirely alone. A soft knock sounded on the door. Joseph stepped inside, lowering his voice. Sir Baruti, we have a problem. Baruti straightened immediately. What is it? Joseph glanced at Amale, eyes filled with worry. I just received a call from one of our men, he said. The Masego family is searching the district. They know Amale was brought to this hospital. Amale's breath caught. How? How did they find out? Joseph hesitated. Someone leaked information. We don't know who. But they're coming. Baruti's expression darkened with a ferocity Amale had never seen before. How much time do we have? He asked. Joseph shook his head. Not enough. They're already on their way. Amale's chest constricted violently. We can't leave. Lebo can't be moved. The doctor said, I know, Baruti said, his jaw tightening. I'm not moving him. He turned to Joseph. Get security around the building. Lock down every entrance. No one gets in without my permission. Joseph nodded and rushed out. Amala stood trembling. Baruti, what's going to happen? He turned to her, his voice low but resolute. They want you alive, Amala. That's the only reason they haven't stormed in already. Her stomach dropped. Alive, for what Baruti met her eyes. To erase the truth, permanently. A chill shot down her spine. But they'll have to get through me first, Baruti finished. His voice was no longer gentle. It was a vow, a warning, a promise drenched in fire. Amale clutched the bed rail beside Lebo, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Because for the first time, she understood what Baruti truly meant when he said, I won't fail you. And she knew the storm she'd been fearing her whole life was no longer approaching. It had arrived. The hospital lights flickered as if sensing the tension tightening around the building. Somewhere down the corridor, a metal trolley clanged against the wall, making Amale flinch violently. Her heart wouldn't settle. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every sound felt like a warning. Baruti moved with sharp purpose, his presence suddenly transforming from a grieving man into something far more dangerous. Someone who had spent years preparing for this moment. Someone who had been waiting for the enemy to return. He turned to Amala with steady eyes. Listen to me carefully. Whatever happens, you stay beside Lebo. Don't leave this room unless I tell you." Amali swallowed hard. "But what if they get in? What if they won't?" He cut in, his voice low but fiercely certain. "But if they do, they'll face me before they ever reach you." His tone held something cold enough to freeze bone. Amali felt a tremor slip down her spine. "You can't fight them alone." Baruti stepped closer, cupping her cheek gently, something he had never dared to do before this moment. "I'm not alone," he whispered. "I have you, and you have more strength than you know." Before she could respond, Joseph returned, breathing heavily. "Sir, they're here." Amali's blood ran cold. Baruti straightened. "How many? 3 cars. Armed men. They've blocked the entrance." Amali grabbed the edge of the bed, her knees threatening to give way. Armed Joseph nodded grimly. "They're not here to negotiate. They want her." Amala felt bile rise in her throat. Baruti's jaw tightened like steel. "Then they'll be disappointed." Joseph hesitated, then added in a shaken voice, "Sir, one of them is Malusi Masego." Amali didn't know the name, but Baruti did. His entire body went still like a predator hearing another predator's footsteps. "Malusi came himself," Baruti murmured. "Then this is worse than I thought." Amali clutched her chest. "Who is he?" Baruti turned to her slowly. "Malusi is Kigwadi's brother." Her breath froze. "Your uncle," Baruti said softly, "and the man who led the hunt for your mother." Amala felt the air drain from the room. Her fingers trembled uncontrollably. Joseph added quietly, "He's the real head of the Masego family, and he wants what your father died protecting." "My father," Amala whispered. "Then he killed him." Neither man spoke, but the silence was answer enough. Amala's throat tightened painfully. Everything inside her twisted rage, fear, grief, disbelief. Her uncle. The man hunting her mother. The reason she grew up fatherless, hidden, poor, terrified. "Why is he here now?" she asked, her voice breaking. Baruti's expression hardened. "Because he finally knows who you are. And he won't leave without you unless we stop him." Amala staggered back a step. "I can't fight him. You're not just anything," Baruti said firmly. "You are the heir he fears. The last threat to his power. And he knows it." Amali's breath came out in quick, shallow gasps. Joseph stepped closer. "We have our security positioned at every exit, but Malusi's men are better armed." Baruti nodded. "They always are. But we did manage to lock down the hospital," Joseph continued. "They can't get in easily." Amali suddenly felt faint. "Easily? What does that mean?" "It means they'll try," Baruti said quietly. "And we need to be ready." He placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Amala, listen to me. No matter what happens out there, you stay with Lebo. He needs you. And you." His voice cracked slightly before he steadied it. "You are the reason your mother survived this long. You carry her strength, her blood, her destiny. Destiny." The word felt heavy, too heavy. "I don't want destiny," Amali whispered. "I want my life back." Baruti's eyes softened with something like sorrow. "I know, and I'll give you that life once this is over. But first, we survive." Another loud crash echoed from downstairs. Amali jumped. Joseph rushed to the window. "Sir, they're forcing the front door." Baruti drew a deep, steady breath. "It's time." He moved to the bedside, looking down at Lebo. For the first time, Amali noticed something in Baruti's expression, a quiet tenderness, almost familial, almost protective in a way that pierced her heart. He placed a hand gently on Lebo's forehead. "Hang in there, boy. I promise I'll bring your sister back safely." Then he straightened and turned to Joseph. "Take Amali to the back storage corridor. Hide her in the medical supply room." Amali's eyes widened. "No, I'm staying with Lebo." "Amala, he's stable now. The danger is for you, not him." She shook her head fiercely. "I'm not leaving him again." A deep crash echoed through the floorboards, followed by shouting and breaking glass. Joseph flinched. "Sir!" "They're inside." Amali's pulse spiked. "No time," Baruti said sharply. "Joseph, go." But Amali moved toward the bed, planting her feet firmly. "I'm not leaving him." Baruti turned to her with a look she had never seen, pain mixed with fierce resolve. He grabbed her shoulders. "Amali, if they find you, they'll kill him to get to you. Do you understand?" She froze. His words struck like lightning cold, devastating, undeniable. Her breath broke. "No." "Yes," he said urgently. "They'll use him, hurt him, or worse, because they know you'll do anything to save him." A sob tore from her throat. "Please," Baruti whispered, his voice rough. "If you love him, you have to hide." Amali felt her legs weaken. Her heart felt like it was splitting in two, but she knew he was right. She knew it with a clarity that made her stomach twist. She kissed Lebo's forehead, tears dripping onto his skin. "I'll be back," she whispered. "Don't be afraid." Then Joseph grabbed her hand reluctantly. "Come, quickly." But before they could leave, Baruti caught her hand briefly. When she turned, his voice was barely audible. "You're not alone, Amala." Her breath trembled. "Neither are you." Joseph led her down a narrow hallway behind the patient rooms, pushing through a small door marked supply staff only. The room was cramped with medicine boxes, gloves, and equipment. "Stay here," Joseph said. "No matter what you hear," Noah Molly whispered. "You have to stay too. Baruti can't face them alone." "He's not alone," Joseph said. "He has 8 guards, and he's not a man who loses fights." Amali's heart trembled. "Joseph, will he be okay?" Joseph didn't answer, and that silence scared her more than anything else. He exhaled shakily, locked the door behind me. Then he slipped out. Amala pressed her ear to the door, her heart hammering violently. At first there was nothing. Then footsteps, shouts, a crash, a scream, more crashes, something heavy slamming into a wall. She covered her mouth, trying not to cry out. Then she heard Malusi's voice, deep, cold, dripping with hatred. "Where is she, Baruti?" "Where is the girl?" Amala's blood froze. Baruti's voice followed steady, sharp. "She's gone, and you'll never touch her." A brutal impact, the sound of a fist slamming into flesh. Amale flinched violently. Then Malusi's voice again. "You can't protect her. Her bloodline is a threat. She dies tonight." Amale choked on a sob. "No," she whispered. Then another voice she didn't expect. "You take one step toward her," Baruti growled, "and I swear I'll end you with my bare hands." A roar, a struggle, bodies hitting the floor. Gunshots in the distance, 1, 2, 3, making her knees buckle. Amali pressed her forehead against the cold metal door, her whole body shaking. "Please," she whispered through tears. "Please be okay. Please." Then a single sound tore through the corridor and cleaved her soul in two. A deep, pained grunt, followed by a body hitting the floor. Baruti. Her hand flew to her mouth as a strangled scream escaped her. "No, Baruti. No." The moment that heavy thud echoed through the hallway, final, sickening, unmistakably human something inside Amali snapped. Her knees buckled, her breath shattered, her mind screamed. "No, not him. Not now. Baruti, please." Her hands trembled so fiercely she could barely grip the doorknob. She pressed her ear harder against the cold metal, desperate for any sound that might tell her she'd misheard, misunderstood, that the universe hadn't just ripped away another piece of her life. But the hallway had gone eerily still. Then slow footsteps approached. Confident, unhurried, predatory, Malusi. His voice curled through the corridor like the hiss of a serpent. "Search every floor. I want her alive. The boy and the billionaire are irrelevant." There was a rustle of movement as his men scrambled to obey. Boots pounding, doors opening, things crashing, a nurse screaming, someone begging. Amali's breath stuttered violently as she backed away from the door. They were coming. Her pulse hammered against her ribs, each beat sharp with panic. She scanned the cramped storage room shelves, stacked with metal trays and boxes of medical supplies. A narrow window too small to escape through a locked cabinet in the back. No place to run, no place to hide. She was trapped. Her eyes darted to a flimsy-looking closet in the corner. It was hardly large enough for a grown woman, but fear made her reckless. She grabbed the handle. It didn't budge. Locked. Her hands shook harder. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Her stomach twisted, threatening to revolt. "No, no, no, no," she whispered frantically. Then she heard it, the unmistakable click of a gun being loaded just outside the hallway. Her eyes went wide with terror. If they found her, she was dead. Not later, not maybe, immediately. She moved toward the shelves, searching for anything to use as a weapon, a scalpel, a metal tray, anything, but her hands fumbled uselessly. Her thoughts spiraled. She imagined Lebo waking up to find her gone. She imagined Baruti's body lying cold on the floor. She imagined Malusi's men dragging her away to a fate she couldn't begin to comprehend. Tears blurred her vision. Her fingers shook as she pressed them over her mouth, trying to silence her sobs. Please, she prayed to a God she wasn't sure still listened. Please, not like this. Not now. Not when I just found hope. The doorknob rattled lightly. Amala froze. The soft metallic sound sliced through the air like a blade. Rattle, pause, rattle again. Her lungs stopped working. Then a heavy fist slammed against the door. B-A-N-G. She nearly screamed. "Open the door!" a voice bellowed, one of Malusi's men. She pressed her back against the shelves, heart hammering so violently she felt nauseous. Another pound. "We know she's in one of these rooms. Break it down." Amali's legs trembled so badly she slid to the floor. Her fingers curled around the hem of her dress as if gripping tighter would keep her alive. Then B-A-N-G, the door jolted under the force. She covered her mouth again, tears spilling uncontrollably. "Faster," another voice snapped. "The boss wants the girl now." The pounding grew more vicious, more determined. Every hit shook the entire door. Every sound shredded another piece of her courage. Every second pushed her closer to a total collapse. Her mind flashed back to her mother, running, hiding, protecting her unborn child from these same men decades ago. History was repeating itself. Another deafening crack shook the doorframe. Splinters scattered across the floor. Amali cried, silently shaking her head. "Please," she whispered again, powerless and desperate. "Someone, help me." The doorframe split. Just as one of the men took a step back to ram it again, footsteps thundered down the hall. Fast, fierce. Then a voice she thought she'd never hear again, rough, strained, but alive. "Get away from that door!" Amali's breath hitched so sharply she choked. Baruti. He was alive. Before the men could react, something slammed into them hard. A grunt followed, then the crash of bodies hitting the floor. A struggle erupted. Punches, kicks, a gun skidding across the tiles. Amali crawled toward the door, her heart skyrocketing. "Baruti," she cried hoarsely. "Stay back," he shouted. She pressed her ear to the door again. She heard Baruti growl in fury, then a sharp blow, then a man scream. Another thud, another. Then a gunshot exploded through the hallway. Amala let out a strangled scream. Baruti, no answer. Her blood turned ice cold. "No, please no." Then the doorknob rattled again, slowly this time, controlled. A voice low and hoarse filtered through the crack of the broken frame. "Amale, it's me." Her hand flew to her mouth again as a sob of relief tore free. Baruti." Her voice broke apart. The door opened just enough for him to slip inside. Amali collapsed into him instantly, her arms wrapping around him tightly. His shirt was torn. Blood stained the side of his face. His breathing was rough, but he was standing. Alive. She shook violently against him. I thought they... He held her firmly despite the pain in his body. "I told you. They won't touch you." She pulled back enough to look at him. His face was bruised, one eye swelling, his lower lip split. "Are you hurt?" she asked frantically. "I've had worse," he answered, wincing. But his next words were sharper. "Urgent. We don't have time. They're regrouping." Amali's heart plummeted. "What do? We get out," Baruti said. "Through the back emergency exit." "But Lebo, I already arranged for him to be moved," Baruti said. "Joseph and the nurses are taking him to a hidden ward upstairs. He'll be safe. For now." Amali nodded, tears still falling. Okay, just tell me what to do." Baruti cupped her face gently, looking intently into her eyes. "You stay behind me, no matter what." She nodded. He grabbed her hand and they slipped out of the supply room. The hallway was a war zone, broken glass, overturned carts. Unconscious men sprawled across the floor. Amali's stomach twisted at the sight. "Don't look at them," Baruti murmured, tugging her gently forward. But when they turned the corner, Malusi stood there, tall, cold, unmoving. His eyes locked on Amali instantly. So he murmured, lips curling into a slow, vile smile. "The little heir has finally stepped out of the shadows." Amali felt her entire body turn to ice. Baruti stepped in front of her immediately. "Malusi," he growled. "This ends now." Malusi chuckled. "Oh, Baruti." Still playing the hero, still pretending you can undo your past failures, Baruti's jaw clenched, but he didn't move. Malusi began walking toward them, slowly, hands clasped behind his back, as though strolling through a garden instead of a battlefield. "You hid the girl well," he said, "but not well enough." "You're not taking her," Baruti said fiercely. Malusi stopped mere steps away, eyes gleaming with cruelty. "Oh, I am," he said softly. "Because she's the last loose thread in the story I have spent years rewriting. I cannot let a child of Kwati live to expose me." Amali gasped, covering her mouth. Her father's killer was standing right in front of her. Malusi tilted his head. Come here, girl. Don't make this difficult. Amali clung to Baruti's arm. No, she whispered fiercely. Baruti's voice dropped to a low, deadly tone. You touch her. You die. Malusi smirked. Then so be it. He reached into his coat, and in a single, horrifying second, Amali saw the glint of a gun emerging. Baruti, she screamed. He shoved her behind him, Malusi fired, and everything exploded into chaos. The gunshot ripped through the hospital corridor like lightning. For a split second, the world froze, sound collapsed, air stopped moving, and Amala felt suspended between life and death. Then everything rushed back at once. Baruti, she screamed, reaching for him. But Baruti didn't fall. The bullet hit the wall behind him, splintering plaster into a cloud of white dust. Baruti had shoved her down just in time, his body covering hers, shielding her completely. Malusi cursed. Hold still, boy. Baruti didn't give him the chance. He lunged. The two men collided with brutal force, slamming into the wall. The gun clattered across the floor, spinning out of reach. Malusi threw a punch, but Baruti ducked, driving his elbow into Malusi's ribs. The older man grunted, anger flashing across his face. You think you can beat me, Malusi? Hissed, grappling for Baruti's throat. I don't think. Baruti growled through clenched teeth. I know. Amali crawled backward, heart pounding so violently it hurt. The fight was savage, raw strength against cold calculation. Malusi was older but experienced, ruthless. Baruti was younger, stronger, but already injured from the earlier ambush. And it showed. Malusi slammed Baruti against a metal cart. Pain contorted Baruti's face. Malusi grabbed a surgical tray from the floor and swung it like a weapon. Baruti ducked, just in time. Metal crashed into the wall with a deafening clang. Stop! Amali cried, her voice cracking. Leave him alone, Malusi's eyes snapped to her. A terrible predatory smile curled across his lips. There you are, he said softly. The air, the mistake, the unfinished business. He released Baruti abruptly and stepped toward her. No, Baruti wheezed, trying to stand. Amali run, but her legs refused to move. Terror rooted her in place. Malusi approached slowly, savoring every step like a hunter closing in on wounded prey. You look so much like your father, he murmured. Pathetic, really. His bravery, his ideals, his belief that truth matters. He leaned closer, voice icy. Truth has no power without survivors. And he didn't survive. His words sliced through her like knives. Anguish twisted her insides. But Malusi wasn't finished. Your mother tried to be clever, he said. Tried to hide you. Tried to run. But she knew I would find you someday. He smiled. And now, here we are. He reached toward her arm, but a roar of pure rage shook the hallway. Get away from her! Baruti slammed into Malusi from behind. The two men fought again, fists, flying bodies crashing into equipment. Baruti tackled Malusi to the ground, punching him across the jaw. Once, twice. But Malusi wasn't an easy man to subdue. He twisted, flipping their positions, pinning Baruti beneath him. He grabbed a piece of shattered glass from the floor and pressed it toward Baruti's throat. Amali screamed. Stop! Neither man hurt her. Malusi pressed harder. The sharp edge grazed Baruti's skin, a thin line of blood appearing. You were always weak, Malusi snarled. Just like Kagwadi. A boy trying to play hero. Baruti gritted his teeth, fury blazing behind his eyes. You killed him. Oh no, Malusi said with a sickening smile. I did something far worse. I erased him. That was the breaking point. With a raw roar, Baruti surged upward with strength Amali didn't know he still had. He knocked Malusi's arm aside and slammed his forehead into Malusi's nose. The older man cried out, clutching his face. Baruti pushed him away and staggered to his feet, panting, blood trickling down his cheek. He turned to Amalo. Run. Now. But Amali stood frozen, staring at Malusi, who was slowly rising again despite his injuries. Enough. A new voice bellowed from behind them. All three turned. Joseph burst into the hallway with two security guards. They carried batons and looked ready to break bones. Joseph's voice thundered, Take him! The guards rushed Malusi before he could move. They grabbed his arms, forcing him to the ground. Malusi struggled, snarling like an animal. Let go of me. I am the rightful head of this family. That girl is mine. Shut him up, Baruti snapped, wiping blood from his mouth. One guard rammed a knee into Malusi's back, silencing him with a painful grunt. Joseph hurried to Baruti's side. Sir, are you all right? I will be, Baruti said, waving him off. Secure him. Call the authorities. This ends tonight. The guards dragged Malusi to his feet, though he continued to hiss threats. You think arresting me will stop the truth, he spat. Her mother is still out there. She's waiting, hiding, and she knows what happens if she refuses to give me what I want. Amali's heart rattled. What does he mean, she whispered. Malusi turned his cruel smile toward her. Your precious mother, he said, still has what belongs to me. Amali's blood chilled. What did she take? He leaned forward against the guards, restraining him, eyes gleaming with wicked triumph. The proof, he said, the entire dossier your father gathered, the evidence that could destroy my family name, the documents that prove I orchestrated everything. The corridor fell silent. Amali felt as though she'd been hurled into icy water, and she hid it where only you can find it, Malusi hissed. Because you have what I don't, his blood. His last clue. Emily stepped back. My father left me. A clue, Baruti stiffened. Don't listen to him. Malusi laughed darkly. Why not? It's the only reason you're alive. Your mother hid the documents using your identity. Only you can retrieve them. And I will get them, no matter how many bodies I leave in my wake. The guards tightened their grip, but Malusi still smirked as though he'd already won. Baruti stepped in front of Amali protectively. Take him out of here. The guards didn't hesitate. They hauled Malusi away, his mocking laugh echoing down the corridor. When he was finally gone, the hallway felt painfully quiet. Emily stared at the ground, her heart in chaos. My father left me something, evidence against his own brother. Joseph exhaled shakily. That man is lying, manipulating you. But Baruti remained silent, and that silence terrified her. Because Baruti wasn't a man who stayed quiet unless the truth was too heavy to speak aloud. Baruti, she whispered. Is it true? He looked at her slowly. His eyes were full of sorrow and apology. Yes, he said quietly. Your father entrusted something to your mother. Something only you can unlock. Amali felt her breath stutter. What is it? Baruti swallowed hard. The location of the hidden dossier, he said. The reason your mother disappeared. The reason you were hunted. The reason Malusi will never stop. Amala's voice cracked. Where is it? Baruti took a long, trembling breath. In the last letter your mother gave me, he said, there is a message for you. A final clue. Amala's world stopped. The letter. The one she dropped when she ran. The one she never opened. Her voice trembled with fear and hope mingling into one overwhelming force. Then I need to read it, she whispered. Baruti nodded. Yes, he said, stepping toward her with renewed determination. Because everything we've faced so far is only the beginning. Amala felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting every truth she thought she knew, collapsing into dust, while new terrifying realities rose in their place. Her mother, her father, a conspiracy she'd never asked to inherit, a legacy drenched in danger. She swallowed hard, her voice a tremor. Where is the letter now? Baruti gently touched her hand. I picked it up before rushing into the fight. It's safe. He reached into the inner pocket of his torn jacket and retrieved the aged, delicate envelope, its corners softened by years, its surface bearing the faint scent of time. He held it as one might hold something sacred. Are you ready? He asked quietly. Was she? Could anyone ever be ready for the truth that had hunted her since before she was born? Amala took a deep breath, feeling her heart pound against her ribs. Yes. Baruti handed her the envelope with reverence, as though passing a torch that had burned through years of secrets. Her fingers trembled as she slipped a nail beneath the seal. The paper split with a soft tear, releasing a faint, haunting scent. She remembered from childhood her mother's perfume, the one she wore on special days when she wanted to feel beautiful despite poverty. A single folded page slid out. Her name was written across the top in her mother's familiar handwriting. My dearest Amalo. Her breath caught. The world dimmed, her vision blurred. She read, My dearest Amali, if you are reading this, then fate has brought you to the doorstep of truth and likely into danger. I have spent my entire life running to keep you safe. If I could have held your hand through this, I would have. If I could have watched you grow, I would have. Every day apart from you has been a wound I carry without complaint, because loving you means protecting you. There is something you must know now. Your father, Kwadi Masego, was not a traitor. He was a hero. He uncovered the darkness poisoning the Masego family. He gathered evidence, names, numbers, crimes no one imagined. He trusted me with the final piece because he knew I would protect you with my life. That evidence is hidden under your name. Only you can unlock it. The key is your blood. My child, when the time is right, follow the place your father loved the most, where the sun rises over the river and the rocks form a crown. There you will find truth. If I am alive, I will find you. If I am not, remember you were born of courage, not fear. I am proud of you. I always have been, I always will be. With all my love, your mother, Lorado. When Amali reached the last line, the letter slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. She pressed both hands to her mouth as sobs tore through her chest. Quiet, broken, uncontrollable. The kind that came from deep within the soul, where wounds never healed, only buried. Baruti knelt beside her immediately, his touch gentle on her shoulders. Amala. She shook her head, tears spilling like rivers. She loved me. She never abandoned me. She was protecting me. All those years, she was alone, and so was I. Baruti's own voice tightened as emotion washed over him. She loved you more than anything in this world. I saw it in her eyes every time she spoke of the future she dreamed for you. Amelie covered her mouth again, trying to breathe through the heartbreak swelling inside her. I thought she didn't want me, that she disappeared because she was ashamed of me. Never, Baruti whispered fiercely. You were her reason to survive. The letter's cryptic clue danced in her mind. Where the sun rises over the river and the rocks form a crown. That place, Amali whispered, trembling. I know it. Baruti's brows lifted slightly. You do. When I was little, Amali said, wiping her face, she used to take me to the riverbank near our old village. There was a hill with rocks shaped like a crown. She said it was our secret place, where she felt safe. That must be it, Baruti said. The hiding place your father chose. The place only your mother and you would understand. Amali's heart hammered. Then we have to go. Baruti hesitated. Amali Malusi's men are still in the area. They'll be searching. I don't care, she said fiercely, wiping her tears with shaking hands. I need to end this. I need to know what my father died for. I need to find the truth, and I need to protect Libo. At the mention of her brother, Amali rushed to his bedside. Libo was asleep again, breathing slowly but steadily. She brushed a hand through his hair gently. I'll come back, she whispered to him. With answers, with safety, with the truth Mama died to give us. Baruti stepped beside her. We should go before the Masego men regroup. But before they could step out of the room, Joseph reappeared breathless, pale. Sir, they've blocked the entire hospital perimeter, he said. Malusi's been taken, but his men, they're everywhere. Armed, aggressive. They're demanding we hand over the girl. Amelie's stomach nodded. Joseph lowered his voice. They've threatened to storm every floor if we don't comply. Amelie pressed her back against Libo's bed, fear seizing her again. We're trapped. Baruti's jaw tightened. No, I'll get you out. But how? Joseph asked. They've covered every exit. Baruti glanced out the window, the night sky dark, the faint outlines of cars and men stationed below. We won't use the exits, he said. Amali's eyes widened. What do you mean? He turned to her with a look of cold, unshakable determination. We're going to the roof. The roof, Joseph repeated. Baruti nodded. I have a helicopter on standby. It's our only chance. Joseph paled. The Masego men are watching the main roof. Not the emergency helipad, Baruti replied grimly. They don't know the hospital has two. Joseph swallowed. It's risky. Amelie felt fear rise in her chest, but beneath it something stronger sparked. Hope, purpose, destiny. It's our only way, she whispered. Baruti took her arm gently. Stay close to me. We move fast, we don't look back, and we don't stop for anything. Amelie nodded. But as they stepped toward the door, Joseph raised a hand. Sir, one more thing. Baruti turned. Joseph hesitated before saying quietly, I overheard one of the men on the radio. Malusi may have been captured, but he wasn't afraid. He kept saying one thing over and over. Amali's heart skipped. What did he say? She asked. Joseph swallowed. He said, It doesn't matter. She's coming. A chill crawled over Amelie's skin. Amelie whispered. Joseph nodded slowly. Yes, he said. The one Malusi fears even more than your mother. He didn't have to say the name. Amali already knew. The person her mother had run from all these years wasn't Malusi. It was someone worse. And now she was coming for Amali. We have to leave, Baruti said urgently. Now. And they ran. Into the stairwell, upward. Toward the roof, toward danger, toward truth, toward the beginning of the final battle her father died for. The stairwell was dim, cold, and echoing every footstep, magnified, every breath amplified. Amala's lungs burned as she climbed, her fingers gripping the railing so tightly her knuckles whitened. The building was waking to chaos alarms, blaring distant shouts, rising doors, slamming open and shut. She felt the storm closing in around her. Baruti stayed just ahead, checking corners with the hyper-awareness of someone who'd lived too long in the shadow of danger. Joseph followed behind her, occasionally glancing down the stairwell, ensuring no one was tailing them. "We need to hurry," Baruti said quietly. "Once they realize Malusi has been detained, they'll act without waiting for orders." Amali's pulse raced. "Will the helicopter be ready?" "It will be," he answered. "Pilot's been circling, waiting for my signal." Joseph grunted. "Let's pray they don't block the upper helipad too." Baruti hesitated. "They shouldn't know about it. Only hospital staff and security are aware. But if someone inside leaked information..." Joseph started. Amali's stomach tightened. "You think someone here betrayed us?" Joseph didn't answer, and that was answer enough. They reached the 6th floor and continued up the stairwell. The emergency lights flickered overhead. Somewhere beneath them, shouting intensified. Boots pounded against tile flooring. A window shattered. They were running out of time. At the 7th floor landing, Baruti suddenly froze and raised a hand. "Stop!" Amali halted instantly, her breath trapped in her throat. "What is it?" she whispered. Baruti listened, his eyes narrowed. Voices. Above us. Joseph strained to hear. "They're already on the roof." How Amali whispered in horror. Baruti's jaw clenched. Someone tipped them off. A loud metallic slam echoed from above, like a door being forced shut. "They're blocking the exit," Joseph hissed. Amali pressed her back against the cold wall, trying to steady her breathing. The walls felt like they were closing in. Every instinct screamed to run the other way, but that wasn't an option. Baruti took a step down, thinking fast. "There's another way. The maintenance ladder to the ventilation platform leads directly to the auxiliary helipad." Joseph frowned. "But that means crossing the framework outside the building." Amali felt her blood turn cold. "You mean outside, in the open?" "Yes," Baruti said. "It's risky, but staying here is a death sentence." Joseph nodded reluctantly. "Then we go." Baruti guided them down one flight. On the 6th floor, he pushed through a door leading to a narrow maintenance hallway lined with cleaning supplies and electrical panels. At the end, he stopped at a rusted steel door with peeling paint. "This is it." He pushed it open. Cold night air slammed into them. The door led to a small metal landing barely wide enough for 2 people. Below, the city lights glittered like scattered stars stretching into the distance. The hospital's exterior wall rose behind them, tall, unyielding, and ahead only a series of narrow steel beams connected the building to the distant emergency helipad platform. Each beam was no wider than Amala's foot. The wind howled through the gaps, sharp and merciless. Amala's heart plummeted. "I can't cross that." Baruti turned to her, his voice gentle but urgent. "Amala, listen to me. You can. I'll be right in front of you. Joseph will be behind you. You won't fall." She shook her head, legs trembling. I can't do it. I'm going to slip." The wind. Baruti took her face in both hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You have survived worse. You've lived through poverty, danger, betrayal, secrets. You carried your brother through sickness. You faced Malusi with no protection. And now you think you can't walk across a beam." Amali's breath trembled. "You are stronger than you know," Baruti whispered, "and I won't let you fall. Not now, not ever." Amali felt tears sting her eyes, but beneath them, resolve ignited. She nodded weakly. "Okay, I'll try." Joseph checked the surroundings once more. "We're clear for now, but we have to move." Baruti stepped onto the first beam. His balance was uncanny. He moved with precision, each step steady and sure. "Take my hand," he said, extending his arm. Amali took it. Her first step onto the beam felt like stepping off the edge of reality. The emptiness below yawned at her. Wind lashed her hair across her face. Her legs wobbled. Her grip tightened on Baruti's hand. He tightened his in response. "One step at a time," he said softly. "Look at me, not down." She kept her eyes locked on his back as he guided her forward. Behind her, Joseph followed, moving surprisingly deftly for a man his size. They crossed the first beam, then the second, the third. Halfway across, a shout echoed from the maintenance door behind them. There, a man yelled, "They're outside!" Gunshots rang out. Metal shards flew as bullets struck the beams. "Keep moving," Baruti shouted, pulling her faster. Amala's heart nearly stopped. One misstep meant falling stories to her death. A bullet zipped past Joseph's shoulder. Go, 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 he yelled, pushing Amali forward. Wind roared. Gunfire cracked. Her feet slipped, but Baruti caught her, steadying her instantly. I've got you, he growled. Don't stop. They reached the platform just as more armed men spilled onto the maintenance ledge. Joseph turned and kicked the final beam loose with all his strength. The bolt snapped. The beam swung away, dropping into the darkness below. The men on the other side cursed, but their victory was short-lived. From behind Amali came the sound of a helicopter, approaching the rhythmic beating of blades slicing through the night. The emergency helipad lit up with flashing lights as a sleek black helicopter descended. We made it. Amali breathed, tears filling her eyes. But Baruti didn't relax. Something's wrong, he said softly. The helicopter wasn't landing. It was circling. Slowly, deliberately, as if observing them. Joseph frowned. That's not your pilot. A cold realization slithered down Amali's spine. The helicopter banked sharply, descending lower until the cabin lights illuminated the platform. A woman leaned out of the side door. Her hair was braided tight against her skull. Her eyes were sharp, cold, calculating. Her posture radiated power, and her face resembled Quadi. Amala went numb. Baruti inhaled sharply. No, Joseph whispered. Is that? The woman smirked, raising a megaphone. Her voice boomed across the night sky. Hello, Amali. I've waited a long time to meet you. Amali's heart nearly stopped. Who are you? The woman's smile widened. I am Naledi Masego, your aunt, the one who controls everything now. Baruti's face turned to stone. Joseph muttered, She's worse than Malusi. Naledi pointed at Amali as if marking her target. You have something that belongs to our family child, and I'm here to take it, one way or another. Amali stepped back, fear flooding every corner of her being. Baruti instantly moved in front of her. You're not getting anywhere near her, Naledi chuckled. Oh, Baruti. Still pretending you have power, still trying to protect the daughter of the woman you failed. Amala's breath caught. Her chest tightened painfully. Naledi pointed coldly at her. Your mother stole from us. Your father betrayed us, and you are the final loose end. The helicopter hovered lower. We can do this the easy way, Naledi said. Come with me, or I will finish what Malusi started. Amali's body began to shake. She pressed against the railing, trapped. Baruti stood like a shield before her. You'll take her over my dead body, he snarled. Naledi smirked. If that is what's required. She lifted her hand. The helicopter door slid open. An armed soldier stepped out, weapons raised. Amali gasped. Joseph whispered urgently, Sir, we can't fight them. But Baruti didn't move. He didn't breathe. He was calculating, preparing. Naledi's voice rang out again. Bring me the girl. The soldiers stepped forward. Amala squeezed her eyes shut. Then Baruti grabbed her hand. Amala, he whispered, voice fierce, run. The moment the word run tore from Baruti's throat, Amali felt her body move before her mind could catch up. Her legs pushed off the platform, her heartbeat thundered in her ears, and the world blurred into streaks of light and shadow. Wind whipped against her face. Helicopter blades roared overhead. Soldiers shouted. Stop her, shoot her legs, don't let her reach the stairs. A bullet ricocheted off the railing beside her, sending sparks into the air. Amali screamed and ducked, heart thundering so hard she thought her ribs would crack. Baruti grabbed her wrist with one hand and Joseph's with the other. This way. They sprinted toward the far side of the emergency helipad, toward a narrow steel maintenance walkway leading to the upper generator room. It wasn't meant for foot traffic, especially not foot traffic being chased by armed commandos. Behind them, Naledi's voice echoed cold and sharp through the megaphone. Catch her. I want her alive. The soldiers opened fire. Amali yelped as bullets struck the ground inches from her feet. Baruti dragged her behind a ventilation pipe, just as another burst of gunfire shredded the air. Stay low, he ordered. Joseph peeked from behind, cover eyes wide. They're flanking us. We need another route. No time, Baruti growled. We go forward or die here. Amali trembled. She could barely breathe. Baruti, we'll never make it. There are too many. Baruti cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You hear me? You will make it. I'll get you out alive. I swore it to you. And to your mother. His thumb brushed her cheek gentle, despite the chaos around them. Trust me. Then he stood abruptly and shouted to Joseph. Cover fire. Joseph raised the baton he'd taken from a fallen guard, not much but enough to distract. He hurled it at the nearest soldier, striking him squarely in the nose. The man stumbled with a curse. Baruti seized the opening. Runamali sprinted again, tears blurring her vision. Behind her, the helicopter spotlight snapped onto her like a predator's eye. There, the girl. Don't lose her. A second volley of bullets rained down. One grazed Joseph's shoulder. He let out a sharp cry but didn't fall. They burst onto the narrow walkway. The metal rattled beneath their weight. Below, the city lights shimmered like distant stars. The drop was at least 10 stories. Keep going, Baruti yelled. But halfway across the walkway, shuddered. Joseph glanced back and his eyes went wide with horror. They're shooting the bolts faster, Baruti roared, pushing Amali ahead. The walkway swayed violently under their feet. Amali stumbled. Baruti caught her again, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. Joseph lagged, gripping the railing with his uninjured arm. We're almost there, Baruti promised as they neared the generator building. But behind them, a thunderous crack split the air. The final support bolt snapped. The walkway lurched sideways. Amali screamed as gravity yanked her feet off the metal. Baruti grabbed her hand with both of his muscles straining as he fought to pull her up. Amal, he holed on. She dangled in the air, legs flailing above the deadly void below. Wind tore at her clothes, threatening to rip her free. I'm slipping, she sobbed. You're not slipping, Baruti bellowed, pulling with everything he had. But her fingers were wet with sweat and blood. Joseph lunged forward, grabbing her forearm with his good hand. I've got her. The walkway continued to twist, threatening to tear loose completely. Naledi stepped to the edge of the helicopter, her braids whipping wildly in the wind. You can't save her, Baruti, she shouted. Give her to me and I'll spare your life, Baruti roared in fury. I will never give her to you. Then the walkway snapped completely. For a fraction of a second, it felt like time paused, metal groaning, wind screaming, hearts breaking. Then the entire structure collapsed beneath them. The three of them plummeted. Amali shrieked as the world became a blur of night sky and shattering wind. Baruti twisted midair, wrapping her in his arms, shielding her body with his own. Joseph tried to grab onto something, anything, but only air met his fingers. Then thud. Baruti and Amali crashed onto a lower maintenance platform, a small steel grate jutting from the side of the building. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. Pain exploded down her side. She gasped, coughing violently. But she was alive. Barely. Baruti groaned, rolling off her. His breathing was ragged, strained. Baruti, she whispered, reaching for him. But he didn't answer. His eyes squeezed shut. Blood trickled from his forehead. His chest rose shallowly. No, she cried, shaking him. Stay with me, you promised, Baruti, please. A rustle above made her freeze. She looked up, heart sinking. Naledi was descending the collapsed walkway debris, stepping with the balance of someone used to danger. Her soldiers followed behind her like shadows. Well, Naledi said, voice dripping with cold triumph, you survived the fall. Impressive. Amali crawled in front of Baruti, shielding him with her body. Don't touch him, she hissed. Don't come closer. Naledi laughed softly. Little girl, you think you can protect a man who failed to protect your mother? Amali's eyes blazed with fury. My mother escaped you, my father fought you, and I'm still standing. That means all your power isn't enough to destroy the truth. Naledi's smile faded. You have no idea what you're up against, she said coldly. But that's fine. I've been patient. And now you'll give me what your mother hid. I don't have it, Amala said. But you will, Naledi answered. The clue is in the letter, and when you retrieve the dossier, you'll hand it to me. I'll die first. Naledi's eyes glinted. Oh, child, don't say things you don't understand. She signaled her men. Grab her. Amali clutched Baruti's hand tightly. Baruti, she whispered desperately. Wake up. Please, I need you. But he didn't move. The soldiers climbed down toward her, their boots heavy, their expressions emotionless. Amala rose shakily to her feet. Stay back. Take her, Naledi ordered, turning away. The first soldier reached her, but before he could touch her, a deafening roar filled the air. A spotlight blinded them all. A second helicopter, sleek black and marked with a government crest, descended like a blade slicing through the night. A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Stand down, this is the Federal Protective Unit. Drop your weapons, Naledi's face twisted with fury. No. Soldiers in tactical uniforms repelled from the aircraft, landing between Amala and Naledi's men. Chaos erupted, shouts, guns drawn, standoff tension snapping the air. A commanding officer stepped forward. Naledi Masego, you are under arrest for conspiracy, embezzlement, murder, and obstruction of justice. Naledi's glare could have cut stone. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," he said coldly. "And that's exactly why you're going to prison." Naledi lunged forward in rage, but tactical officers seized her, forcing her to the floor. Amala collapsed beside Baruti, clutching his hand. "It's over," she whispered, tears falling freely. But the officer knelt beside her. "Not yet. You and your mother are still in danger. We need the evidence, the dossier your father hid. Only then can we shut down the Masego Empire." Amala nodded slowly. Her tears dried. Her fear hardened into determination. Then she whispered the words that sealed her destiny. "Take me to the river, where the rocks form a crown." The officer nodded. Baruti groaned weakly beside her. She held his hand tighter. "I'm not letting go," she whispered. "Not now. Not ever." And as the night wind swept around them, Amali finally understood. Her battle was only beginning. In life, truth can be buried under fear, pain, and generations of silence. But no matter how deeply it hides, truth has a way of calling to the one brave enough to face it. Amala's journey teaches us that sometimes we inherit battles we never asked for, but we also inherit the strength to fight them. Her courage reflects a truth we often forget. The past does not define us, but understanding it can free us. And even in the darkest moments when danger seems overwhelming, the right allies can light the path forward. Where there is love, there is purpose. Where there is truth, there is freedom. And where there is courage, there is victory. What part of Amali's journey touched you the most? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another powerful African cinematic folktale.